Picture a world where fear grips a small village like an icy hand. The unseen forces of suspicion and paranoia fuel whispers that turn deadly. Salem, Massachusetts in 1692 became the setting for one of history's darkest chapters, a time when trust disintegrated, neighbors became accusers, and mere rumor spelled a death sentence. What led this seemingly devout community to tear itself apart? How did fear warp faith into a weapon of destruction? The Salem Witch Trials were not just a tragedy of misplaced justice, they were a reflection of deeper societal anxieties. To understand this dark episode is to confront timeless questions about human nature, fear, and the consequences of collective madness. By the late 17th century, the Puritan settlers of New England had forged a difficult existence in the New World. They viewed themselves as a righteous community, chosen by God to establish a religious haven amidst the wilderness. Yet their mission was fraught with hardship. Life in Salem Village was harsh and precarious. Crop failures, disease outbreaks, and frequent skirmishes with Native American tribes created an atmosphere of constant insecurity. Tensions ran deep within the village. Salem was divided between those who wanted to maintain a strictly agrarian community centered around church values and those pushing for greater economic prosperity aligned with the more prosperous nearby Salem town. This rift created resentment and infighting among neighbors. Religious zealotry, economic disparities, and simmering personal grievances laid fertile ground for the hysteria that would soon engulf the community. Puritan theology also played a crucial role in shaping the village's worldview. They believed that the devil was constantly seeking to corrupt their holy mission, and that his agents, witches, operated in the shadows, sowing discord and chaos. Witchcraft trials had already taken place in Europe for centuries, often resulting in the execution of supposed witches. In this context, the concept of diabolical possession and malevolent magic was not a mere superstition, but a deeply held belief. In January 1692, strange occurrences disrupted the household of Reverend Samuel Parris, the minister of Salem Village. His 9-year-old daughter, Betty, and her 11-year-old cousin, Abigail Williams, began exhibiting bizarre symptoms, violent convulsions, fits of screaming, and claims of being pinched or bitten by unseen forces. Despite prayers and fasting, their condition worsened. When traditional remedies failed, the villagers turned to spiritual explanations. Dr. William Griggs, the local physician, declared that the girls were afflicted by the evil hand, a diagnosis interpreted as witchcraft. Panic rippled through the tightly knit community. Soon, other girls, including Ann Putnam Jr., Mercy Lewis, and Mary Walcott, reported similar symptoms. Under mounting pressure, the afflicted girls named 3 women as their tormentors. Tituba, an enslaved woman from the Caribbean in the Parris household, viewed as an outsider with suspicious folk knowledge. Sarah Good, a homeless beggar with a sharp tongue who was unpopular in the community. Sarah Osborne, an elderly woman who rarely attended church and lived with a man she had not married. These women, marginalized by the strict Puritan society, were easy targets. They were arrested and subjected to brutal interrogations. Tituba, possibly seeking to save herself, confessed to witchcraft and claimed that the devil had compelled her to harm the girls. She painted vivid images of spectral figures and conspiracies, fueling the hysteria further. The accusations quickly spiraled beyond the initial 3 women. Fear and paranoia gripped Salem Village as more names surfaced. Men, women, and even children were accused of consorting with the devil. Old grudges and rivalries resurfaced as villagers seized the opportunity to settle scores by accusing their enemies of witchcraft. The trials became chaotic spectacles, fueled by dubious evidence and emotional fervor. One of the most controversial forms of testimony was spectral evidence claims that the spirit or apparition of an accused person had appeared in visions or dreams to torment the afflicted. This type of evidence, though impossible to verify, was accepted in court because it fit with the Puritan belief that Satan could assume any form to carry out his schemes. The court proceedings were presided over by Judge William Stoughton and his associates, who showed little mercy toward the accused. Defendants who confessed and named others were often spared execution, creating a perverse incentive to lie. Those who maintained their innocence faced death. The most notorious execution method was hanging. Between June and September 1692, 19 people were hanged on Gallows Hill. Giles Corey, an elderly farmer, suffered a particularly gruesome fate. He was pressed to death with heavy stones for refusing to enter a plea. Despite the agony, Corey reportedly maintained his defiant silence, demanding more weight as the stones crushed his body. By late 1692, doubt began to creep into the minds of some community leaders. The relentless executions, coupled with the increasingly implausible nature of the accusations, sparked concern. Prominent clergyman Increase Mather publicly condemned the use of spectral evidence, declaring that it were better that 10 suspected witches should escape than one innocent person be condemned. Governor William Phipps, responding to the growing unease, dissolved the Court of Oyer and Terminer in October 1692. The remaining trials were conducted by a more skeptical court, which acquitted many of the accused. In May 1693, the final prisoners were released, and the nightmare of the Salem Witch Trials came to an end. The scars left by the trials were deep and lasting. Families struggled to rebuild their lives after losing loved ones to the gallows. In 1702, the trials were formally declared unlawful. The Massachusetts government later issued a public apology and offered compensation to the victims' families in 1711. However, the emotional and psychological damage endured for generations. Salem itself became a symbol of hysteria and injustice. Over time, historians and writers have revisited the trials to understand the complex social, religious, and psychological factors that fueled the tragedy. Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible, famously used the trials as an allegory for McCarthyism in 20th century America, highlighting the enduring relevance of Salem's cautionary tale. The Salem Witch Trials remain a grim reminder of the dangers of mass hysteria, unchecked authority, and scapegoating. They exemplify how fear can corrupt justice and unravel social bonds. Yet they also offer lessons about resilience, accountability, and the importance of safeguarding truth and reason. What echoes of Salem can we still hear in our world today? How do we ensure that reason prevails over fear and that justice triumphs over prejudice? Share your thoughts and reflections on this haunting story and its timeless lessons.